Hello, my loves. Welcome. If you are watching the replay, hashtag it replay. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know that you are here. So for today, I have so much to share. Like I am someone who just, once I get going, once I open my heart and I start sharing, I just want to give you guys everything. But I've created a structure to prepare myself. And so if you see me looking down or looking away, if I'm looking down, I'm looking at my notes. If you're looking away, I'm talking to my guides and I'm having some communication coming through to help me. My guides wanted me to start off today with us just really kind of letting the day go and just connecting. So if you are driving or if you're doing something active and you can't close your eyes, just listen to the words of my voice and just allow yourself to open yourself up to receive the energy that comes through me. Okay, my words are light encoded when I speak from my heart space, and higher frequencies will come through the vibration of my words and enter you. So even if maybe you're a little new on your journey and you don't quite understand something that I'm saying, just listen to it, just feel it, just be in the energy of it, and know that my words are being encoded into you, okay? They're activating something in you. So we're gonna just take a few moments. Today is perfect for this. Today is a heart bridge day. And that means that today is really easy to connect heart to heart, and to be that bridge between human and spirit and between human and human, between our higher selves. Today is a beautiful day for any type of communication in relationships, okay? So let's just take a second. And if you're able to close your eyes, go ahead and close your eyes. And we're just going to take 3 deep breaths. Breathing in through the nose and audibly out the mouth. And the reason why we do this is because our own voice, our own vibration signals our body to relax, to let go, to release the tension that we're holding, to allow our breath to be fully expressed. Okay, we're going to do this 2 more times. Breathing in through the nose and out. And just feel that weight just dropping, setting down, opening up your spine, opening up your heart. And one last time, breathing in and out. As I invite you to unlock your heart space and to open it, and just imagine a beautiful rainbow shooting from my heart into yours, allowing for a direct connection to be established between each and every person who listens to this broadcast. And just be with that energy for a moment. As we set the intention today to share with you from my heart space the energies of 2020 and what they are asking of us, and how we can see clearly in 2020 and beyond. How we can understand this process so that we can thrive and flow and be empowered in our creator energy to create the life that we are desiring. Beautiful. Beautiful. Hi, Lynette. Hi, guys. Okay. Now that we have that, we have my whole team, my guides here, and we are ready. 2020. Can you believe it? We're in the 20s already. Isn't that crazy? It's crazy to me. I was just thinking about that the other day, about how we are in the 20s and what it would have been like, what it was like in the 1920s, right? And thinking about all the things that happened in the 20s. Because this year there's going to be a lot of big events. There's going to be a lot of things that happen to activate us and push us out of our comfort zone that we have been in, right? Because a lot of us have been in our comfort zones, right? And we're wanting to be, we want the magic pill. Let's just cut to the chase and get real clear with it, right? So many of us, and I'm one of them, right? For a long time, I just wanted the magic pill. Like, just give me the one healing, the one thing that's going to allow me to manifest everything in my desire. Anything that I desire. I have this huge vision for myself. I aligned with my higher self energy. I created this huge vision, and I said, I'm just going to jump the ship, right? I'm just going to jump to this. I'm going to align with this higher self presence within me, the one that says you can have anything you want, the one that says you can create any reality you want, right? But something happens in there, right? We kind of bypass our current self and all the parts and pieces of us. So when I was connecting with my team, really the last half of December, and I was talking to them about my own personal journey, I received so much insight that really is helping me to shift and create my teachings in a new way. So for those of you in here who are completely new to me, I am a choice consciousness teacher. Okay. So my guides talk about choice consciousness, that there are no right or wrong, that there's infinite possibilities and opportunities always available to us. And they're really helping me to anchor into that energy and present all my teachings through that lens. So 2020, I've said it, has been dubbed the year of seeing clearly. And it's not that we will instantly see clearly. It's not like something magical happens, but it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to see clearly. So what does it mean to see clearly? Because when we see clearly, we are seeing with our whole self. We are not aligning to the victim consciousness within us. We're not aligning to the wounds that are within us. We're not seeing through the lens of our trauma, of our fears. But we're also not just seeing through the lens of our higher self and what we know is available to us, right? It is about seeing with the whole self. This is about allowing all of the densities in the lower parts of your consciousness to be rised up into your heart space, to be neutralized in the energy of grace. And when it's neutralized, you actually open up the space for the light to come all the way down. And that light is your higher self. It is your I am presence. And I'm going to take you through these steps to show you. And I did it, I gave a small tidbit, a glimpse to the people that were in one of my other experiences. And I gave them just a synopsis, a short synopsis of what this is going to be about. And it blew all of their minds. So I'm so excited to be sharing this with you. Because in order to really create your desires, you cannot just think that you do these rituals and you're going to manifest this reality. I've tried it. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work at all. Because here's what happened to me, okay? And everything I teach is because I went through this trial and error. I learned the hard way, and I had to move myself through it with my team. Nothing to me was just downloaded and said, here you go, right? It's not how I operate. I cannot share it with you until I've personally been through it. So this is my personal experience in addition to how I've transitioned it into a teaching. So last year was the year that I decided I was going to face every single part of me, because I had this huge vision, and I started out the gate I aligned with that vision. I uprooted, changed everything and all the people I was working with, right? I stopped co-creating. I went back to my original design. I went back to who I am. I realigned with my purpose. I realigned with my values. And I said, this is what I want to create. And I, boom, ran out the gate trying to create it. And it flopped. It flopped hardcore. And here's why. I was really pissed when it happened too, because I said, this is what you wanted me to do. This is what I felt called to do. This is what my soul was craving that I do. And it's not that it was wrong. It was that I wasn't taking all the parts and pieces of me with me on this journey. I was aligning with my higher self. And I was saying, this is who I am now. Forget about that old person. Forget about that girl. But here's the thing, you cannot outrun your problems. You cannot outrun your patterns, your fears, your limiting beliefs. You cannot outrun them. And if you have not brought what is unconscious, conscious, then those unconscious aspects of you will speak 10 times louder to the universe. Because here I was creating all of these things, putting risks out there, dropping money right and left, saying, I'm doing it. I'm going all in. I was gung-ho, guys. I'm like, we're going on tour. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And it was all amazing, right? And cognitively, I knew I was worthy of this. And I was worthy of people buying the tickets and coming to see me. Anybody who's worked with me knows that I give tremendously in everything I do. And I could feel it. I felt the energy, but something was still off. And these terrible things started manifesting in my life. And I was so frustrated. I was so defeated. And I was just so tired. I was so tired, you guys. I was like, nope. I just wanted to quit. It made no sense to me. And this is exactly what needed to happen for me to have this learning, to go through this. So I went through it. I learned a lot about myself. I faced a lot of ick and really transitioned through it. And then I created the soul flow experience, right? And I went and I taught exactly what I went through to get to where I was at that point. Because for me, teaching helps me anchor it even deeper into my cells, right? So I go through it, I practice it, and then I teach it. And as soon as I was done teaching this experience, I immediately dropped into the dark night of the soul. Immediately. And I could feel it, but I could feel the energy building. I could feel it building. Everything started to slow down, and I knew it was coming. My higher self knew that this was something I needed. And I literally hit rock bottom, worse than I ever have before in my whole entire life. Like, seriously, in 2016, I went through my second dark night of the soul, and it led me to the edge of suicide. And I can tell you that this one was way worse than that. However, I responded way differently. I completely lost everything. Everything. I lost all my income. I had no money. This is over Christmas time. Literally, I went negative in my account. It's the first time that's happened in I don't know how long. My son, who was already having issues at school, had something else happen that created a huge problem. In my relationship, I started to have problems to the point to where my body started to swell from everything that was happening, and I had to have my wedding bands cut off. I mean, talk about symbolism, right? Everything. My daughter moved back in. Everything that could go wrong in my life, every worst case scenario, not being able to pay bills, not being able to buy Christmas presents, every worst case scenario in my life happened all at one time. And you know what? I didn't die, and I wasn't alone. And though it was very painful and very uncomfortable, it put me back into the void. I had to face head on my worst fears and still believe I was worthy. I had to go to that space. I had to physically go to that space where I had no thing. Nothing. You guys, I had nothing. And I still had to go to that. I had to sit in that space and say, is this who I am? Is this what defines me? And I had to go through this process. So I'm going to share a little bit more about that in a little while, but I want to come back to 2020 for a minute because I know exactly why this had to happen. 2020 is a year of karmic return. Okay. So this means that everything you do from this moment on, right? Really, it started with the solstice, to be honest with you. But everything that you do, say, every action you take, every word you speak, every thought you attach to is planting a seed or a weed. That's what's happening. This is the energy, and it will really accelerate come June, right? So in the beginning of the year, this is really us like getting our shit together, okay? It's starting to put into action what we've learned thus far. It's starting to take responsibility and really feel our worth and allow ourselves to create that reality, right? To believe without seeing it. To believe. And this is why I say we are being offered the opportunity to become a conscious creator, because the reality is, and you know, I say this a lot, but we are always manifesting. There is no ritual that is going to help you manifest, right? I have rituals. I've done rituals. They're fun. And I'm never going to tell you not to do them, right? They help you get into that energy of excitement. They help you shift. But you are literally always manifesting. I had another fellow healer who I have worked with. He's a really good person. He's an excellent healer. But he said to me, he said, you know, you don't create your reality. He said, sometimes just shitty things happen. And I didn't correct him or anything because that's his truth, right? Who am I to say that's not his truth? But what my guides tell me, what my collective says, is you are the creator because you are them. You are the guides. You are God. You are your higher self, but you're having a dualistic experience. You're having an experience outside of all that is, right? You came to experience separation so that you could remember to come back into unity, right? It's a really weird game we are playing right now, to be honest with you. But they said, you are always creating your reality. Yes, things are going to happen, but 90% of, and this is what blew my mind, 90% of our relationships or experiences were called into our life to trigger us. And that doesn't always mean they're bad triggers. Some of them are, we would consider them activations, points of remembrance, right? Something I say to you, something someone else says to you, says something, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, yes. And this light bulb goes off. That's an activation. When light is shed on an awareness that is already within you, a truth that is already within you, and you feel that resonance, that is you remembering. That is you remembering. Right? So 90% of our relationships and experiences in our current reality, in this life, okay, I'm not talking about any other life that we have experienced or are having right now, is here to help us remember, to other, by pushing us outside of our comfort zone, by triggering us and triggering a wound so that we will heal it, or by helping us remember that truth within us. So this year, to become a conscious creator, to realize that you're consciously creating your reality means you know what you're doing, right? I say it like this. You become the player in the game instead of being played in the game, because the game is life. This is the reality, right? So you're either being the player and actively playing the game, or you are being played. There's a big difference. We become a conscious creator by first redefining who we are at a soul level and how we're going to live every day in the truth of that. So that means we break down, we create this structure and we become anchored in it. And this structure is made up of our values, of what we will tolerate and what we won't tolerate, who we want to be, who we want to be around with, what direction we're heading, what we have to offer the world. But it all starts with us. We get so fascinated when we wake up with all the things, all the modalities, how to connect with our guides, how to read the Akashic records, how to do all these things. And they're saying you can do all of that sitting in your house on a pillow, meditating, if you can just focus on yourself and bringing that density into the light of your heart space to be neutralized in grace. If you can integrate all of the parts and pieces of yourself that you have labeled, defined, or believe are in your way, that I have to do these things in order to do this. You have to become anchored in your truth. So, what do I stand for? Am I ready and willing to redefine myself? Right? Maybe you're not, and that's okay. Maybe you're not ready to redefine yourself. What am I afraid will happen if I redefine myself? And this is where you find out, are you still attached to people judging you? Are you still attached to what people will think? Especially our families, right? Even strangers, your friends that you've known for a long time. If you redefine yourself and you allow yourself to step in to that I am presence with all your baggage, and you embody all of that energy and accept it fully and stand in your power and say, this is who I am. Are you worried about what other people are going to think? So what am I afraid will happen if I redefine myself? If you guys have been following me since 2015, you'll know I've redefined myself about 100 times. Now, my core teachings haven't changed, but I'm a 1-3. I learn by trial and error. Big time. And I'm here to endure in order to nurture you. So I have to go through it in order to help you go through it and help you not go through it at the level that I went through it, right? So that transcendence, that process of transcendence has allowed me to redefine myself over and over and over again. And in the beginning, I used to think I was wishy-washy, right? You have to be consistent. All the coaches say you have to be consistent in who you are. No, you have to allow yourself to change. We are meant to change. We are meant to evolve. It's part of the process. It's natural. How do I not lose myself in a relationship, partnership, or business? When you're fully anchored in who you are and what your values are and what your purpose is, you won't allow yourself to get lost in a relationship, in love, right? When you get wrapped up in that energy of love, and you get so infatuated with what's happening, it means you're giving all of your love away. Your love is homeless. It's homeless because you're not loving yourself. You're not respecting yourself. You've dropped your boundaries and you've said, I'm going to give all of myself to this. And then you lose yourself in it because you didn't stand rooted in who you are and your structure. I've done this. You guys all know I was in a partnership with Ashley Pfeffer, and she's still to this day one of my best friends and my soul sister. But I got lost. I got lost in her dreams, and it derailed mine because I didn't stand in my boundaries. I didn't stand in my values. I didn't realign through my purpose. The same thing can happen in relationships with friends and with significant others. So, and then how do I not lose myself in the collective mind? And this is where we're going to start coming into some of the big teachings here. Because the collective mind is what's running you before you wake up. That's the program running you when you're asleep, the collective mind. And if you don't understand the process that I'm about to take you through, and not many of us did, believe me, I was teaching this before somebody even told me that this was my purpose to teach this. And I didn't realize it. And I wasn't following it. And that's why it wasn't working for me. It wasn't until 2016, 2017, when I finally decided I really have to take myself through this. And that's when everything shifted for me. I had to take myself through this. I had to embody it. I couldn't just channel it. I couldn't just tell you. It wouldn't work for me. It's not how I'm designed. And this is where we're going to break it in. What stage of the awakening am I in, right? There's 4 stages in an awakening. And they're not even really stages, honestly. They are like separate awakenings. And how they go together and how they're supposed to be utilized is so mind-blowing when you hear it. It's going to activate a remembrance within you. And my whole goal in this whole workshop is for you to figure out what awakening you are in and how to understand how this process works so that you can get yourself in coherence, right? This is about bringing all parts of you into coherence. Because when your heart is speaking, all the other chakras, all the other parts of you, they're going to come together and help you. But is it going to be at the unconscious level? Is it going to be bringing up the wounds? Or is it going to be coming from an empowered place? How are you directing them, those parts and pieces of you, to work? So that's where we're going to start, because a lot of us talk about being stuck, right? Most of the time when I have single sessions, everybody says, I'm stuck. I don't know how to move forward. I'm stuck. I don't know how to make any more money. I'm stuck. I don't know how to expand my business. I'm stuck in my relationship. I'm stuck. I don't know what I want to do with my life. I'm stuck, stuck, stuck. And when you are stuck, you are saying that you are running the program that says you only have limitation, lack, and separation. And then your ego is going to come in, right? And it's going to project everything in your reality to prove that you are stuck in lack, limitation, and separation. And that's what I did to myself. As soon as that program was over, I dropped in and I knew it. I took away all my choices and I went straight into the dark night, and literally I fell into that hole of I'm in lack, I'm limited, and nobody wants anything to do with me. Nobody sees me, nobody hears me, nobody feels me. I went into full-on separation. It was needed. So here we go. Are you ready? So this is how the awakening process works. And this isn't going to be too deep, but it's really going to help you. So when we wake up, our solar plexus is the first thing that opens, right? And everybody's heard about the gut brain. Everybody understands what that is, right? We talk about gut health. This is where your true mind lives. But when it opens, think about it. When something's closed, it's dark, right? You're unconscious, you're asleep. When the solar plexus opens, the light starts to come in, and you start to become aware that there are more possibilities and opportunities than what you have been living. This is when disclosure begins to happen for you personally, right? So you start to see, why did all these things happen to me? If I'm really connected, if I'm really spirit in this body, why would I have been abused? Why would I have chosen to live a life like this? We start to see how the government's running things, what doctors and pharmacies are really doing. We start looking at everything with fresh eyes and becoming aware of the deception and the illusion that's being presented that we have been playing in. And for most of us, we go right into victim. Why? Why me? Why is this happening? And we start to try to escape it. And this is where everybody starts to begin with the mindset work, right? Let me know. Raise your hand, put an emoji, whatever. When you first woke up, you went all into mindset work, right? Everything was about the mind and what you're saying and your belief systems and your limiting beliefs. But this is where the recreation should begin, because when that happens, when that light opens up in our solar plexus, we have the opportunity to see, I can either be a victim and continue to absorb all of this negative energy, continue to absorb all the emotions, the fear, the limitations, the judgments, because we feel exposed. We open up, we feel exposed, we feel vulnerable. We don't understand. We get confused. Who am I? How did I get here? How do I get out of here? How do I shift my life? How the hell did I let my whole life get this far, right? Especially for those of us who woke up later on in life. We start to get into all of those stories and theories that are running. But if you don't create a new structure, a new belief system, a new value system, and begin to align with your purpose in that moment, you are susceptible to the collective mind. And this is what happened when I was working with Ashley. Because though, one, I was about 5 years ahead of myself in what I was creating, I invested a ton of money into all of these things, and built all of this stuff. But I built the house without the foundation. That's what I did. I built a house without the foundation because I wasn't pulling all that information through my values, my purpose. I got swept up into the collective mind. And you'll notice this. Just watch, start to become aware how coaches, all of a sudden, they're all doing the same thing, right? Now, yes, we all channel the same source. So everybody can be pulling that in, but is it aligned for them? Is it something they're supposed to be teaching? Is that something that's for them? Is it something that's for you? It's very easy for us as we open up. We're very telepathic beings. We're very connected to each other, right? If you are meant to be somebody who is going to be a way shower, you're going to start as a grid keeper. And the grid keeper is like the telephone lines. You're hearing what everybody's saying and doing. But if you're not aware of what's happening, you can easily see those ideas going by and go, oh, I like that one. Oh, I like that one. And then we attach to it and we start to create from it, but it was never aligned for us, right? Because we don't know who we are yet. And this is the problem with, in my eyes, when people are pushing all of these spiritual resources, because now I see that we have to take a step back, all of us. We have to take a step back as light workers, as light leaders, and we have to take responsibility and say, am I teaching from a space of integrity? Do I know who I am? Am I anchored fully into that? Do I know what my values are? Do I know where I want to share from my heart? Do I know why I want to share it? Is it just for money? Or do I have something bigger calling to me? In my life, are these relationships serving to me? Am I facing my stories? Am I forgiving myself? Am I forgiving my parents? Am I forgiving my teachers? Am I forgiving my exes? Am I seeing that forgiveness is giving up hope that the past can be any different? And if it can't be any different, I just need to accept it. I just need to accept it and embrace it and say, it's okay. That was then. Now, in this moment, right now, I get to choose. And that person was doing the best that they could back then with where they were, just as I'm doing the best that I can where I am. But we don't do that. We shift into, I got to say, affirmations. I have to do all of these things so that I can have the right mindset. Listen, I'm guilty of this. You don't have to go into the past. You don't have to go into the past. We live in this sphere. The past is going to come back in front of you over and over and over again. And whatever isn't healed is going to show up in that. You don't ever have to go backwards. Ever. Whatever is happening in your reality is the past coming back saying, it's not healed yet. It's not healed yet. Or here's your opportunity to prove that you're going to choose differently, right? Okay, so now you say you've healed it. Usually, when you fully anchored and you're about to up level, because that's what happened to me, right? I dropped out, I ended the course. I ended the soul flow experience, and I knew it was coming. I knew a big quantum leap was coming for me. I didn't realize I was going to hit so hard, though, because when you finally decide, this is who I am, and I say this, and I mean it with every fiber in my being. Every ego aspect of you is going to show up and try to keep you from doing it because it wants to protect you. It's not from a bad place. And that is your choice, your opportunity. And I'm going to show you this. This is a pattern, right? So this is a pattern. Every X that you see is an opportunity to break that pattern. And this is how the pattern breaking works, right? So you had this belief for a very long time that you're not worthy, you're not worthy, you're not worthy, you're not worthy. And all of a sudden you start to feel worthy. And all of a sudden you start to really believe that you are worthy. And you start to anchor that worthy. And you're coming to the completion of the pattern, right? In that X, in that spot, in this spot right here, you enter into the void, the space of creation, right? The void, the black hole, the nothingness. Ego does not like nothing. It needs structure. It needs physicality. It needs connection. It needs something in its space. This is why ego is attached to personal belongings and status and celebrity and what do I have? My house, my car, how much money I make, right? It needs things. So when you enter into the void, the ego does not like this whatsoever, but the void is the space of creation itself. And this is your opportunity to recreate yourself. This is your opportunity saying no, as ego starts throwing crap at you, saying, what about this? But what about that? But what about this? Limitation, obstacle, limitation, obstacle. In those moments, how you respond is determining if you go back around the same pattern, right? And each time you go through that same pattern, you get smaller and you get smaller and you get smaller. And every time your cells go to recreate, because they recreate. They rebirth themselves. Every time it does, it goes to your higher self and says, is she still playing small? Is he still playing small? Is she ready to step into her power? Is she ready to own who she is? Oh, no, she's still, no. Okay. Reset. She can go through this pattern all over again. You start to age. You start to get sick. And eventually you'll probably end up in the dark night of the soul. We want to break this. We want to break this. So when we enter into that first stage, that mental body awakens, right? Expanding beyond the collective mind, allowing you to see, feel, hear, know that there is more than the beliefs and the stories that you have been told or that you have believed that have been true your whole entire life. And your I am presence that awakens naturally wants to align with your highest self. The problem is it gets entangled with our emotions. We start to attach to these belief systems. We start to attach to the suffering. We start to attach to the dis-ease. Why? Because we're freaking afraid. We're scared shitless. And as we've opened ourselves up, we see all of a sudden all these new thoughts and theories going by. And we become really aware of the collective mind more than we ever have before. And it's scary. So transforming your beliefs and expanding your consciousness, speaking your truth, these are the things that starts to happen when that collective mind opens. Instead of it just being I am, it should be I am as I intend. And this is what we forget. This is the spot we miss. We do not enter into intention, right? We don't forgive who we were. We don't forgive all the things that we did wrong or all the things that we believe that we no longer align with. We don't forgive all those people. Not only that, but we forget to set an intention of who we want to be. And then guess what? We jump into shadow work. We do mindset work for a little while. We think we've reset our beliefs, but we still don't know who the hell we are. And this is the majority, not everybody. And then we jump into shadow work. But I want to share something else with you before we move on to the emotional awakening, which is where a lot of you in this group are. A lot of you are in your emotional awakening, not your mental awakening. But I really, as I'm going through this, if you align with where you are, share it with me. Tell me I'm in my mental awakening. I'm in my emotional awakening. Because within each awakening is 4 levels of awareness, right? It's I see, I hear you, I choose to liberate myself, right? I intend to create. That's just all in the very first level of that awakening. The second is I surrender, meaning I know who I am. I've anchored into who I am. I intend to create this with these values. This is who what I stand for, and I will not allow myself to be compromised. I surrender. Surrender is the second phase of awareness. Surrender, which means trust, by the way, if you didn't know. Surrender means trust. It means I trust who I am. I trust who I want to be. I trust my values. I trust what I stand for. I will not be compromised or influenced by the collective mind. Once you've done that, then you start to anchor, because guess what? Remember I told you, ego's going to come in and throw every single thing at you as you surrender into that void and patiently wait and sit in that heart space, allowing for everything to be called in to meet you halfway, because the universe will not throw you a bone. It is going to ask you to meet it halfway. And if it throws you a bone, it's not going to be anything you like. When those opportunities are starting to be tossed at you, those obstacles, those things are coming back around again to test you. And you choose differently. You choose love instead of fear. You choose to see it through my 3 pillars, right? Wisdom, love, and unity. You choose differently. That is when it anchors and the structure is built, and now the water can be set free. Now everything is flowing. And as you're flowing, that new matrix is installing. And that matrix is the conscious creation matrix. This is the matrix that says, I am the creator. I get to choose who I am. I get to choose what I want to do and who I believe and what I believe. It's up to me. Even if it is just in my response, that is still you choosing and creating. So remember that through every phase of an awakening you go through, there are levels of awareness within that awakening. Then we move in, remember, like I said, we move into that emotional awakening. The emotional awakening, where's that page? Hold on a second. If I don't stay to this, we'll be on here for hours. Yeah. So the emotional body, your emotional awakening, this is where we store and transmute all human emotion. So there is a collective emotional body, just as you have your own emotional body. So this is the sacral. When the sacral awakens, right, we begin to sense, feel, and receive emotion like we never have before. And this is a lot of times when your sensitivity as an empath or highly sensitive begins to ramp up, and you are starting to take on more people's energy. You're starting to get sick a lot more. You're starting to feel the ascension symptoms a lot more. You're really just feeling it all on an overall level. But here's the other part of this. You're not just feeling the ick, you're also feeling the emotional desires of the emotional collective body, right? So again, you can get trapped or tempted or caught up in the collective emotional body. I always say it like this. Are you ever with somebody and you start craving something you don't normally crave? Or you start feeling something that you don't normally feel, right? You're tapping into somebody else's desire. You're tapping into someone else's desire. If that doesn't align with your purpose and your values and who you are and what you stand for, you're deviating from your path. And that's not a bad thing, right? Maybe you need to deviate. Maybe there's a lesson over there for you. When we talk about getting stuck or off course or why did this happen, it's because we are not being conscious. We're not in our conscious awareness. We're not taking everything we receive in through the lens of our purpose and who we are. But this is where pain or pleasure are reflected to the universe and to each other through vibrational frequency, right? Again, thought or theory floats on by. You see that desire, you see that belief, whatever it is, you pull it, and now you're rooting it down into your emotional body. That's mine. I believe that. I'm going to hold on to that. I'm going to go round and round that. We bring it into our emotional body. We say, this means something to me. This means something about me. This is for me. This is the only way I can do things. And this is where we start to understand the realities of heaven or hell. I used to say hell is this human experience, but it doesn't have to be. It can be at times, but it doesn't have to be your majority. It can be easy. It can be a blissful experience. But it requires you to really face your own personal emotions. This isn't about healing another person in a relationship. I have learned this lesson way too many times. It's not about you fixing another person. It isn't about you sharing your unsolicited and giving unsolicited advice. It's not about you reading every single person that comes into your reality, wondering if they're going to be the one that's going to accept or reject you. It is about you learning to read yourself. Emotional intelligence, understanding where somebody is coming from, understanding where they have been or where they currently are in their path, and accepting them for where they are, and accepting yourself for where they are. When we how can I say this? When we have relationship issues, when we have issues in our life with other people, those people are reflecting back to us. They're being a mirror and allowing us to see the parts of ourselves that we are not willing to see and accept, right? This isn't every relationship, but every time somebody triggers you, they are pushing a button inside of you. They're not doing something to you. They're not causing you to feel that way. They're activating it. They're saying, hey, you have that in you. How do you like it? Do you feel it? Do you see it? Do you hear it? Are you going to accept it? Because I didn't. I didn't accept the part of me that did things when I was asleep that I'm not proud of. I didn't accept the part of me that resented my husband. I didn't accept the part of me that was judging other people and saying they're not doing what they should be doing. They're not honoring themselves. They're being a busybody. They're doing it because they're wounded. I was seeing people through the lens of what was wrong with them and what they weren't doing right, instead of just loving them and accepting them and saying, you exactly where you are in your journey. And I was exactly where I was on my journey. But that was the point. I was still judging myself. I wasn't accepting who I was and where I was in this moment. I wasn't riding the wave. And in 2020, listen, I'm going to be flat out honest with you guys. If you can't enjoy where you are right now and try to thrive in that energy and accept your reality, not meaning that it won't change, but acceptance is the key, right? Awareness is the door, acceptance is the key. If you can't do that this year, it's going to be a very big struggle for you. Time is speeding up. You're going to get lost in the time. You're going to feel like you're spinning around. This is the year we are meant to redefine ourselves, to create that structure of what we are built of. And each and every time awakening happens within us, when that mental body awakens, it was meant to be all that energy, all that density, all those beliefs were meant to rise into our heart space to be neutralized, allowing the light to come in to our solar plexus, right? And then we go through the emotional awakening. The solar plexus, the sacral opens. We were meant to, right? This was the idea, or the quickest path. All those densities to be faced head on, facing your fears, facing your limitations, facing your perceived lacks, facing the people that have wronged you and hurt you. I know some of you have been through it, just as I have. It's hard to face that trauma. We were meant to face that. And as we face it and we say, I see you, as if that isn't... This is a good point. I wasn't going to talk about this, but I'm going to bring it in. I don't know if anybody's ever seen my video on what an entity is, a dark entity. Really, it's just an entity. It is an emotion that is pretty much taking on its own form. It's been given so much of your power that it's as if it's a separate piece of you, right? And we push it away. Instead of seeing that as as a little wounded child and saying, it's okay, and accepting it and allowing that energy to integrate. It is through that integration that it is given over to the heart space to be neutralized, and the light can come down into the sacral. I'm going to tell you this because it's the best example I can give of how we begin to fragment ourselves out and separate parts and pieces of ourselves. When we're a child, think about it. Or think about it if you have a child. Mom, I'm hungry. Mom, I'm hungry. You can't eat right now. It's not 5 o'clock. It's not dinner time. You have to wait. That child separates that part of themselves and says, I can't honor my intuition. I can't honor the part of me that says I'm hungry. I can't listen to my body that says I am hungry. I have to follow a clock now, or I have to follow my mom now. She's going to be the one who tells me when to eat. Mom, I'm tired. Mom, I'm tired. No, you can't take us. You can't sleep now. You won't sleep later. I have to separate that part of myself. I have to separate from my intuition, once again, from my higher self that says I know when I'm going to sleep. I know when I'm tired. I can only sleep when I'm told or when a certain time is. So we separate, we push away. Creates a fragment, right? I can go on and on with these. And you can beat yourself up for what you've already done to your children or what was done to you, or you can just accept that that was done and choose today to do things differently. But that is when the process begins, where we begin to shut down and follow the masses, become a sheep. And usually in the beginning, our mom and dad are our leaders of that pack, right? And then we get passed off to teachers, and then we get passed off to significant others or employers, and it just continues. And this is what's going to be changing collectively, by the way. This is going to shift. So in the emotional body, when we go through that shadow work, And what is shadow work really? Shadow work is bringing the unconscious or dark parts of you into the light. You're bringing the unconscious conscious. You're becoming aware of those aspects of you. You're connecting to your inner children. You're connecting to your emotional body. You're allowing yourself to express your emotions. You're not holding back anymore. You're not shutting down. You're not repressing. You're not distracting. You're not medicating. And you're not spiritually bypassing. And that's what I was doing. I was spiritually bypassing. I said, nope, I'm going to go right into meditation. I'm going to realign. I'm going to go to that higher frequency. I'm going to raise my vibration. Hallelujah. I'm out of it. Yet, my reality wasn't shifting. Why? Because I was not bringing my wounded children with me. I was not bringing those parts and pieces to myself with me. I wasn't. I wasn't allowing my vibration to lower and to slow down, because that's all it means. Vibration is the rate of speed of which we process information. I wasn't allowing my vibration to lower and allowing it to spread out so that I could clearly see the parts of me that were speaking to the universe that I had no freaking idea was happening, because I was jumping ship. And here I thought I was doing great. I was like, oh, I'm feeling my emotions. I wasn't. And so most of this year, when the shit hit the fan, when my emotions came to the surface, I didn't even meditate. I sat with myself. I cried. I felt it. I was with it. I'm not going to give you guys the steps because that's not what this is here for, but I was in it until it had passed, until it had been fully accepted by me. And how to move through these things, all the things that I'm going to be going into deep, deep dive, helping you guys through navigating this, to create this structure, to embody this, to accept all parts and pieces of yourself, to align, to allow all of the parts and pieces of you, your ego, your inner children, your body, to all come into coherence to help your heart or your soul, right? To align with your higher self. Your higher self becomes the leader. Everybody else comes aboard and you ride off into your journey, into your sunset, creating your reality. You are in the driver's seat, right? The matrix of conscious creation is the new name for the soul flow experience. You learn to communicate to people from a space of compassion and understanding. You learn not to react. You learn to read between the lines. You learn the cues from your body and from another person's body. You learn to read what they're saying without them saying it, and not from a space of judgment. You learn how to hold space for yourself. All of this has to be done for yourself first. To allow yourself to move through the emotions. And then we come down into the root, right? So this is the third awakening, or third stage, if you want to call it. This is when the body awakens. And what I mean by the body awakens is your structure, your bones, your teeth, your skin, it all holds collective karma. This is the slice of the pie, of that karmic pie, that you decided to take on in this life. So within this are programs of shame, of guilt, of sexual abuse, even if you weren't sexually abused, regular abuse, whatever. There are programs running that you have chosen to take on and transmute and alchemize in this lifetime. Now, within my body, as I move into that third stage of awakening, which is what happened to me this year, I discovered I was carrying shame that was my grandmother's. And I've always felt most of my life, and I have been sexually abused, but not like incest or anything. I have been raped several times. But I always felt I always felt like I could never let anybody in, right? And this is what some of the things that you will learn through your emotional awakening as well, that intimacy, the true meaning of intimacy, is the ability to stand before yourself, butt ass naked, with all your problems, with all your failures, where you are at that journey, look at yourself in the mirror and love yourself without judging yourself. Think about it. When you have an intimate relationship, when you're intimate with somebody, you are literally letting them into your body. But to have that intimate relationship and communication, you have to be able to feel that you can trust this person with every fiber of your being, to let it all out on the line, and to not be judged, and to be loved and accepted. And if you can't do that for yourself, you won't have it in a relationship. And before I could move on and go into that body awakening, I had to come to the breaking point, and with myself and my marriage, do I feel this way about myself? Can I do this for myself? Because if I can come into that alignment and not judge myself and accept myself fully and love myself fully and be completely intimate, radically responsible and truthful with myself. I'm not lying to myself. I'm not avoiding things anymore. I'm not hiding things. Then my relationship would naturally shift, or it would fall away, whatever, because it's going to align with that contract. Again, when we do this, when we break that pattern, you're going into a new timeline. So anything that's not aligned with that timeline is going to fall away. So it wasn't about me choosing if I wanted to stay married. It wasn't about me choosing in that relationship. It was, I need to align with what's highest and best for me. I need to accept me fully. I need to trust me fully. I need to be intimate with myself fully and experience that for myself and ask him or something better, this or something better. Because if he's not aligned on that new timeline, then he will naturally fall away on his own. I won't have to do anything. I won't have to make a decision. It will just happen. Think about that, right? You make this big up level and all of a sudden all these things start falling away. Friends start disappearing. You lose your job. You lose your boyfriend. You get a divorce, whatever. Why? Those things, no longer a match for that new timeline. This is why it's so important to have that structure built and understand the tools that will help you navigate these different phases of the awakening and how to accelerate your path and how to manifest and create consciously versus letting the unconscious programs do all the speaking. So as you come into your third and your body awakenings, this is when you start to tap into what's running, what's unconsciously in there. And again, you don't have to go looking for it. It's going to show up in your reality. It's a matter of you having that awareness and accepting that energy, fully accepting it into your being and meeting it with love and grace. The fourth, if we're going to go that far, so the third one is your root chakra, right? It's that grounding, it's the anchoring. It's installing the new program. It's installing that matrix of conscious creation into your bones and saying, this is the new program I've accepted, neutralized, and now the new program is going to install. Because when you go through like beliefs or emotions, listen, you're not just releasing it, you're exchanging it. Energy can only change form. So you're changing its form. We say release because it's a linear word, right? But you're really not releasing it. You're integrating it. The ego doesn't die. You're integrating a piece of your ego. You're integrating it. Now, no matter what level of awakening you are in, when you move from being the victim and absorbing the negativity and taking away all your choices, because that's what's happening. If you're running lack, limitation, and separation, you are saying there's no choices for me. There's no options for me. That you don't live in an infinite universe with infinite possibilities. You guys, there are 8-year-olds making billions of dollars on YouTube right now. Think about the man who created the pool noodle. I mean, it's endless, the things that we can do to make money. It's not about that anymore. But when you go into self-sabotage, or you're letting your unconscious programming speak for you, you are entering back into lack, limitation, and separation. And then your ego is going to say, oh, we know how to play that game. Let's take everything away from her. Let's really show her what lack and limitation and separation means. But in those moments, right, there are other choices. But that moment that you attach to and accept lack, limitation, or separation, what are you doing? You're putting your back against the wall. Now your boundaries are falling away. Because now you're going to start doing things that don't align with you because you're desperate. And because you're in that desperate energy, you're going to think you're not deserving. What did you do to deserve this? And because you're in the I'm not deserving energy, now it's I'm not worthy. And the cycle repeats. When you don't feel safe, you don't trust yourself. When you don't trust yourself, you don't feel like you're deserving. When you don't feel like you're deserving, you definitely don't feel like you're worthy. And you make zero money. You have problems in your relationships. Things go south. Is that all making sense? I'm going to take a minute and go through some of these comments before we go any further. Brandy says, I was all about mindset. I was a Louise Hay fan. I love Louise Hay. And there's nothing, everybody's gone through this, right? So this is no judgment here. Affirmations are great, right? But if you're not, that's like you in trying to, this is an, hold on. This is an analogy they're bringing through right now. So let's just say there's a virus on your computer. And instead of cleaning the virus and removing it from your system, it's taking affirmations without doing the mindset work of integration and recreating who you are and stepping into your value system and your purpose and your mission. It's like installing new software on top of the virus, hoping it will take. It's a pretty good analogy, huh? Brandy says she went through that. Yes, I have noticed. Hi, Gloria. I'm so glad you're here. Rebecca says, I chose to move in November. Everything fell right into place for me. I was thrilled. Took a job with a company that ended up not being a good fit due to their shady practices, and I refused to be a part of it. Now here I am again, no job interview after interview, no cash flow, and that's why I'm on here. That has been your pattern. I can see just right now, just from looking at that, I can see what it is. Can you? Listen, yes, I am launching today the matrix of conscious creation, but that's not the point of this live, because not everybody's going to be a fit for that. And not everybody's going to make the choice to take action on it. And I wanted everybody to take something away from this. I wanted everybody to have a light bulb moment today and take away something that they needed. I don't know if you've already figured out what you've done, but I want you to sit with this live and see if you can see with your whole self. Tap into your inner child. Tap into your body. You know, here's a tip that I've shared many times. Here was the first cue for me, and it happened over and over again. It took me a while to catch on to what was happening. But let me just show you that. So in business, right? I make my offers, I share, I give tons of value. Cognitively, I know I'm worthy. In my heart, I feel it. I feel the energy of worth. Yet, right? I share, feel great about it. Someone would pay me, you guys. Someone would pay me, and my body would contract. My body would be like, oh, what is this? This is not a good match. Nope, nope, nope. Close that door. Isn't that crazy? But it was because there was something unconscious running in my body that I was not aware of. I hadn't tapped into it. I hadn't brought it into the light. And in the program, I teach you how to do that. But literally, you guys, listen to your bodies. They were given to us as a tool. Our ego is a tool. If you know how to hack the ego and tell it to get in its place and be of service to you, it no longer is trying to throw obstacles and limitations at you because it understands its place. When you understand that you are not your body, but your body is a tool for you, it is your home, it is something that is here to serve you, and it is filled with information because everything is energy. This pen has information. You know why these crystals store information? Just the same way we do. A belief happens over and over and over again. We do something over and over and over again. All of a sudden, it becomes automatic pilot. Why? We have 12 layers in our auric field. There's 12 dimensions around Mother Gaia. Just like Mother Gaia, she's constantly pulling in all the information from the cosmos, all the information from us, all the things going on, right? Expansion, expansion, and collect, full, full, full. All right, contract. And every time she contracts, she creates precious metals and crystals. And this is why when you meditate with crystals, you can receive information. The same thing happens to your body. Your auric field is your Akashic record. It holds everything that is happening simultaneously in every lifetime in reality that you are running at the same time. When you're taking on in your auric field because you have crappy boundaries, which I did for a very long time, when you're pulling in constantly everybody else's crap, unconsciously most of the time, beliefs, emotions, fears, desires, it gets full. Your auric field gets saturated, and then it contracts into your bones. Install. This is why awareness is so huge and why we understand the levels of awareness that we are in through each stage we're moving through. This is also why we will never run out of crystals. So let me keep going. Gloria, hello, gorgeous. I'm so happy you got to see your daughters. She says, writing down everything I want in 2020 and believing I am worthy to receive it. Beautiful. Get very clear on those first questions. You guys, I gave you the questions to ask. Right? What do I stand for? Who am I? What are my values? What do I choose to live by? What do I stand for? You know what a boundary is? Boundary is knowing what you are, what you will stand for, what you will tolerate, and what you will not. And when you know what you will not, it's not compromising it. Because when you compromise it, you're not feeling safe. You're not trusting. Your back's against the wall. Your boundaries are done. Now you're going to do anything because you're desperate. And now you're pissed because you're in that space again. And you're thinking, what did I do to deserve this? I must not be worthy. And it keeps going over and over and over again. I had to learn the second piece in 2019. Jade says, I'm here. I surrender and trust. Yes. See, and well, I'm going to get into that in a second. I'm not sure where I am. I just know things have been changing since April 2019. Okay, so is that when you feel like your awakening began? We always start with the collective mind. Even if your awakening was caused from sickness, or from death of somebody or from tragedy, it always begins in the solar plexus. It always begins with that light coming in, because your solar plexus is your ego, right? It's your power center. It's your identity. But your identity can be, I am everyone and everything, and I align with my higher self. Or your identity can be, I am a coach that makes 7 figures, and I drive a Porsche, and I vacation everywhere, and blah, blah, blah. Do you see the difference? So when that awakens, we begin to see and sense and feel and hear and understand there are all these possibilities and opportunities. I don't have to align with the sheep. I don't have to follow everybody else. I can stand by myself and walk on my own path and believe what I want. But rarely that's what happens. We start taking affirmations in and trying to put a program over a program that isn't serving, a program over a virus over a program. We forget to do the deep work of facing those beliefs and integrating them and say, that was great. That worked for me at that time. That's where I was. Awesome. I'm going to accept that and allow that to be wisdom. This is where we transition it, right? Our war stories, our traumas, the things that happen, we look back in a space of hindsight. We pull the wisdom and we allow the rest to integrate. And that wisdom is what crystallizes. We talk about our crystalline body that's storing information. And for those of you who went through the 7-week experience, the energy experience, you understand what I'm saying right now, right? Because when you come back through that tunnel, what happens after you went through that Akashic record and you went through that transformation? It was crystallized. The same thing happens in your body. But we want the wisdom to crystallize. We want that to be the belief. We understand we're everything new that comes, it goes through the lens of wisdom, self-love, unity. I am you, you are me, the true meaning of empathy. Erica, I'm in my emotional awakening. Yes, you are in your emotional awakening. Lynette says, when the emotional phase came for me, my heart chakra was wide open. I could sob uncontrollably during a news story. I had to quit watching the news and all media. Me too. And when my emotional awakening happened, same thing. I would sit there and I would sob. And I realized, it's funny, when I look back now, I can see the moment that awareness shifted, where I went from, I'm a victim, I'm taking on all this energy, to I'm now crystal emanating, right? Because I learned these phases and I learned to integrate really quickly with the collective and with clients, right? Because when people come to you, when clients come to you with some heavy emotional issues, I was taking those on. I was transmuting them in my body as a healer, and I was getting sick because I didn't understand the process, right? I didn't understand that I don't have to take that out. I don't have to heal it through me. But I remember this very clear. I was in the kitchen. I was actually in my pantry. I have a walk-in pantry. And there was a story on the news about these parents who had all these children in this empty house. And I don't remember all the details. It was like 12 kids or something. And they were basically starved and strapped to chairs and like really poor living conditions. It was terrible. The parents were, and I remember my husband saying something like, I hope they, somebody chains them up and tortures them. Do you know what I was feeling? I was feeling empathy for the parents. I sat there and I said, man, what they had to have gone through in their life to project those wounds. Hurt people. Until you can accept the hurt, transition it into love and wisdom and unity, you're going to continue to hurt people. You're going to continue to bleed on everybody else. Lynette, loving where I am currently and being grateful for now. I got to learn that in 2019 when I realized I was living the life I dreamed of 5 years prior. Isn't that crazy? I love it. Even negative is simply asking to be seen. I feel that in my bones. Yes, I'm so glad you guys are having these awakenings. Jade says, I've separated from anger this week, seeing it and accepting it. Anger is such a useful emotion, you guys. And I have a whole process to how to use anger in the program, but anger is a sign of liberation. It's a sign saying something needs to change. It's like, you know how if anybody's ever worked retail or worked in a store, you know how like a light would go off or something would happen when the drawer's full and they need to do a money shift, a money change, right? It's the same thing. When anger comes in, it's saying, hey, you over there, there's something inside you that needs to change. You need to finally do something about it. You need to take action here. You're angry, you're feeling like a failure. You don't understand what's happening. All has to do with expectations, right? Even when you're desperate. Anytime you're not in the energy of love and expansion and opportunity and possibility, you are having an expectation that is not being met in your current reality. And I have them still to this day. Expectations is a huge lesson for me that will probably last my whole entire life. But I've gotten way better at it. Because we're not going to do everything in this life. It's just not everybody's going to make it that far. Not everybody's going to hit walking enlightenment or transition into Buddha, right? It's not going to happen for everybody. Not yet, anyway. But you can learn to recognize what these frequencies and what these things are trying to tell us, what our body is trying to tell us. When we learn to communicate with all the parts and pieces of ourself, that is when we see with our whole self, when we begin to integrate all of the things that we don't like about ourselves, all the things that didn't go right, all of the things, integrate it by accepting it and loving it. That's what compassion means. Is to love where you are, to understand at an emotional level. Do you ever have an argument with your spouse or friend and you're like going crazy because they keep rebutting to you and you're like, no, because you know that's not what you meant, but they're not understanding. That is a miscommunication, right? And that miscommunication is coming because the other person or you or both are not speaking from an emotional standpoint, from an understanding. You're speaking from your ego. You're speaking from your wounds. You're reacting. It's the same when you're speaking to somebody, right? And they interrupt you a lot or you interrupt other people. If you're interrupting somebody, you're not being present with them. You're not sitting with them. You're not taking in their words. You're not taking in their body movements. You're not understanding in your body what their words are offering you. That vibration that's coming into your body, that vibration that's coming into your heart, it's not being interpreted. Spirit is never wrong. We only miscommunicate them, and we do so because we're not taking the lower mind, the lower emotional body, and the unconscious parts of ourself in our root. We're not bringing all that energy up into our heart. You ever seen that meme that goes around that says the heart's two ears together makes the heart? Do you know when your clairaudience really begins to open is because you're connected to your heart? Because we perceive through our energetic field, and that energy goes up into our heart space, and we're able to clearly hear the translation. You get that direct connect, right? That bridge. That's why they say the throat's the manifestation center and the heart is the bridge, because this energy is lower and it needs to rise up to the heart. It's got to meet spirit halfway. And when that opens and that energy neutralizes, then it can come out manifestation, right? We speak our reality into existence. We begin to see clairvoyantly. Did you know if you're not seeing clairvoyantly, if you don't have the ability to imagine If you're going through a transmission or a meditation and you're not able to see what's happening and you're just like, I'm just trusting, I don't see anything when they ask me, it's because you're not connected to your emotional body. Because you see, you hear, you feel, you know a correct interpretation or an aligned interpretation, a clear communication through your heart space. That energy has to rise up into your heart. You have to be connected to your emotions, but a lot of people don't because they're afraid of what they're going to feel. They don't want to feel the ick. And I understand. I totally understand. Okay. Hey, Brandon. Who else is in their emotional awakening? Yeah, to see who you are. You need to believe in order to see. If you don't believe who you are, if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe in your values, if you don't believe in what you stand for, you're going to be seeking outside of yourself saying, is that for me? Let me put that in. Let me install that. Let me see if that works. Oh, is that for me? Let me install that. Let me see if that works. It's a very long process. Terry Lynn, I am and I have been since last where I am no longer a victim and I am no longer blamed for anyone that has happened or what I've been through. Yeah, you stop blaming. You stop blaming. You're no longer a victim. You own and here's the thing, and I say this with love because I've been through it. People tell me all the time, I used to get one-on-one clients and say, well, I was sexually molested, or I was beaten as a child, or I was abandoned, or we were homeless as kids, or I was homeless as an adult, And, I was a child, so how can I take ownership in that? How can I not blame my parents for that? Because they were doing the best that they can with where they were. And your responsibility in that is to accept that that's where they were. And that something, whatever happened to you, happened for you. I could not be where I am. I could not be sharing what I am. I could not be in the space that I am if I did not go through all the horrible things that I went through. I wouldn't be able to understand so many different people, right? So maybe you're not here to be a healer or a coach, or maybe you're meant to be a healer and a light, but in a different way, right? You can be that as a guidance counselor, as a lawyer, as a doctor. It doesn't mean you have to be a woo-woo spiritual person or entrepreneur. You bring your spirituality, your truth, your alignment into everything you do. It's not something we do. Spirituality is not something we do. It is what we are. It is an opportunity for us to align with our higher self and bring all those other parts and pieces back in. So the key to all human suffering is the inability to accept responsibility, as we were just saying, for our own thoughts, feelings, and actions. In fact, attachment is shown to us when we allow our thoughts and emotions to take on a life of their own. When I was talking about, remember that identity, like it has its own, we consider it a dark entity. Oh, I feel like I have an attachment. Your emotions, you've given so much emotion to a thought, so much attachment to a thought. Attachment is your emotion that is literally taken on a life of its own, and now it's hanging on you. It's attached to you. It's dragging you down. It's holding you back. It's feeding you the lack, limitation, and separation. I've seen it show up so much in somebody's programming that they have felt like they had lead in their feet, or another one, stakes in their feet. I've done DNA activations where I've seen chains around people. Isn't that crazy? It blows my mind when I do these types of healings or sessions with people, because I see that they have attached to this program so much, even on an unconscious level, that it has manifested as a disease or illness in their body and kept them stuck in their current reality where they're not happy. In the human 3D form, grace teaches us to accept our slice of karma and offer us an opportunity to transmute it through forgiveness. And I teach forgiveness much different than anybody else because I had to go through it in a much different level. So any questions thus far? Because in order to be the conscious creator and see with your whole self, what I am asking you to do is to redefine yourself, is to face your shit and to take action. To take action. How many of you know what you need to do or should do, but don't do it out of fear of uncertainty? Uncertainty, unknown, is the killer, especially when you are in your emotional awakening. Because if you haven't dived in fully into that emotional work, uncertainty and the unknown is really going to get you. Because you're already playing in that programming. You're already running that program. That you need to see. If you need to see physically something before you to believe it, you are 100% in ego. Because ego needs to have a tangible thing. Period. And when you step into uncertainty, you're stepping into that unknown and you're saying, I believe. Because I believe, and I'm aligning in my values. I believe in what I'm doing. I believe in who I am. I'm putting all of my heart into it. I'm not doubting myself. Yay me, I surrender. And I sit, I surrender, I sit, I trust that the universe is going to meet me halfway and they're going to start bringing me opportunities and possibilities. And I'm going to get to choose which one aligns with me. And I'm going to take that next step. And I'm going to keep going after that and keep going and keep going and keep knowing. That inertia builds. And then all of a sudden you've got this beautiful structure and the dam releases. You ever see someone online all of a sudden go from 0 to 60? They blow up overnight. They kept taking those right actions and the dam opened. And their structure was built. If the dam opens and your structure isn't built, it goes all over the place. So if you don't know who you are with nothing, you will not know who you are with everything. Why do you think people win the lottery and go broke the next day or a year later? Why do you think celebrities end up getting caught up in drugs and bankruptcy? Because they didn't know who they were without all those things. You got to know who you are. This isn't about anybody else. You want to activate your gifts. You want to see, you want to hear, you want to feel. You want to come into that role as a leader in whatever capacity you choose, whether it's your family or a business or your place of employment. If you want to step into that empowered, badass space, you got to know who you are at a soul level in your bones, and you will not compromise that. You will step where there is nothing, and you will wait for that floor to appear. But there are things that make up that structure. And that's what the matrix of conscious creation is about. It's about understanding the program of conscious creation. What makes a conscious creator? What are all the things that I need to do? And the tools, you guys, are freaking super simple. They're super simple. I'm going to be showing you the frequencies and how to use those frequencies to stop trauma in its tracks. As it's happening. As it's happening. How to diffuse. If you're in a relationship with a narcissist, if you're in a relationship with somebody who's an asshole or controlling, you're going to learn the frequencies to stop it in its tracks, to diffuse them. You're going to learn how to be in that observer role where you are understanding what program they are running. Because when you understand the program they are running, you don't take their shit personally. It's no longer an attack on you. You understand where they are on their journey. You understand. This is where they are. And it's not my job to change it, to fix them, especially if they haven't asked. You learn how to read your body and read your inner child. You learn how to hack your ego. One of the very first things I learned, and it was totally by accident, was how to read my body. I am highly clairsentient. It's probably my strongest gift, but now my clairaudience and my clairvoyance, claircognizance, they're all coming into about equal. And that's what happens when you start to align those parts and pieces of yourself. You become full-blown extrasensory, and you don't label it a clair. Everybody has all of them. It's about them all coming into cohesiveness and working together in synchronistically. I had this mentor who was teaching how to open your clairs to people who, right, and this was my choice, this was my lesson, who hadn't done the mental or emotional work yet. And it pushed me into my emotional awakening before I was ready, because I was so in a hurry to open my clairs fully, because I wanted to do all the things, right? And I had to step back, but I was so attached. I didn't want to give it up. I didn't want to give it up. And as I was talking to her and I was expressing these things, I was saying, none of those tools are working for me. I said, this is what works for me. And I told her, and she goes, oh, that's a really great idea. And the next day she dropped me as a client. She fired me. And I was so pissed. But what I realized in that moment was the reason why all those things weren't working for me is because I had to do it my own way. And my way was what I needed. And she was about to take that way and use it for her own, which is fine. But I wasn't understanding who all these beings were that were coming to me, all these dead people that were coming to me. I didn't know what they were trying to say to me. I didn't know what they wanted. I felt like Whoopi Goldberg and Ghost. I felt like I was being surrounded and all this energy. This is what you feel like when you're having anxiety, when you go out in public and you're like, oh my God, I feel like the world's caving in on me. I had no boundaries. I had no understanding of the energy. So you know what I did? I freaking blacked out my room. I blacked out my office, my window. And I started calling them in one at a time. I said, I want to feel what I feel like. Nobody else. What do I feel like? Right? And I started going through this process. And I began to learn to read my body. And this is also what began the opening of my medical mediumship, which I don't use, by the way, but it's never here nor there. But I had to understand what my body was saying. I was reading that information through my body. But then I had to bring it up into my emotional body. And then I had to bring it up into my heart space. That's when my clairaudience opened, when I was able to bring it into my heart so that I could understand it. That's emotional intelligence, understanding clearly what someone is saying and how, and because you're reading beneath the words, you're reading beneath the tones. You just get it. And then I want to show you, I want to teach you the frequencies and how to use them to disarm people. Disarm yourself. When that program comes up and you're in fight, flight, or freeze, when your body's freaking out, when you're starting to have all these things happen, I want you to know what to do in that moment to clear that trauma alert, right? My team calls it the trauma alert system. That's when your body contracts. That's when you feel the anxiety. That's when you feel your heart closing off. That's when you feel yourself lowering and it's getting smaller and smaller. When you're ready to escape, when you're wanting to distract, when you're wanting to eat or numb or meditate to avoid that feeling. When you're so interested in just raising your vibration and you're not sitting and facing what is being shown to you. In those moments, you have an opportunity to clear the trauma, to hit the reset button, because your body is like a car. When it needs an oil change, when the brakes aren't working, when the engine's going, there's going to be lights going off and alarms going off. Your body's no different, except now, instead of a tiger trying to eat you, right? Or someone trying to burn you at the stakes, there's something else being presented, and it looks nothing like the original trauma. But it has the same energetic signature, because your unconscious body is so primitive. Its only job is to protect you from pain or to bring in pleasure. And it will communicate with your lower mind, your solar plexus, and communicate to your ego. This is what we're experiencing. This is what you need to do to protect us. Or if you go through the program, you can learn my tricks and you can clear it. Clear it. It doesn't happen the first time you do it. Just like anything, riding a bike, driving a car, moving in a new location, right? Start a new job, get a new place, you got to take a new route. Pretty soon, after a while, you do it enough times, it becomes autopilot. That program then becomes crystallized and installed. And then you can go into that next phase. And here's the thing, we're in a midway point. In 2017, we had a total solar eclipse. In 2024, we're going to have another total. We are in the midway point of what we call the shift. And right now, this is our opportunity to say it's make or break time. And anybody who hasn't been doing their inner child work, anybody who hasn't been facing their emotions, anybody who hasn't been facing their reality, it's going to be in your face so much. There's going to be so many things that happen collectively. So please don't go into fear when things start breaking down, when our governments start breaking down, when weather things start happening. It has to. These are triggers. If you're not going to do it, we're going to create the environment that will. You understand what I'm saying? All right. Yeah, I love it too, the trauma alert system. Brandy says, wow, again, I was just thinking about how people talk about how people can bring you down, but how I don't see people talk much about how people try to pull you up before you're there yet. We so overcomplicate shit. I overcomplicated shit, right? I'm sure I'll overcomplicate shit again. We're human. We make mistakes. We take things personally. We're human. But it doesn't have to be. The teachings I put forth in this program, that I put forth for the girls that just got out of it, they're simple. But when you do it and you put it into action, that's when change starts to happen. These girls have been out of the experience for 3 weeks now. Right at Christmas time, right? When all the holiday, everybody gets together, the children, the parents. What an awesome time to put their tools into work, to use. And they all did. And they all did amazing. And one even went right afterwards, right into the dark night of the soul. Why? Because she did every single thing. She did the freaking work so beautifully that she dropped into that void because she was about to pop into a new timeline. And that's what I went through. And I was like, why am I going through this right now? And now I realize, after I did everybody's January readings and I sat with my team and I talked about, they showed me 2020 and we talked about what's happening and what's going to happen. I was like, now I understand why I had to hit so hard, right? I endure in order to nurture. I had to know what it felt like to have nothing. to be negative in my bank account. I had to know what it felt like to have no one supporting me. My person, the one who holds space for me, my soul sister, was in the biggest move of her life across country. Well, not cross country, to Michigan. She wasn't available for me. I had to be with no one and no thing. And I had to find who I was in that. I had to say, is this it? And you know what's funny? So I go through it, right? This was hardcore, you guys. This was hard for me. And it's still, when I reflected back, I was like, I responded like it was a bad day or a bad week versus the last time I went through the dark night. That was the difference. So I went through this, right? And when I finally asked for help and I reached out to my friend, at that point I was already at a better place, but I was at the place where I was ready to come out of the ick, and I was ready to allow someone else into what I was going through. And she came in and she confirmed a bunch of things. She held space for me. She did some stuff for me. And a couple days later, as I'm continuing to integrate and things started to shift, all of a sudden money started flowing in from all kind of unexpected places. And about, let's say last week, I was laying in bed and I started to swell again. My body started to swell. I mean, my knees were huge. My face is still a little swollen. And I started to go numb on the left side of my body again. Now, if you guys, for those of you who know my story, right? In 2016, I got misdiagnosed with a stroke because half my left side of my body went numb. I was put into ICU for 3 days. They couldn't figure out what was happening. As soon as I went into ICU, when they were about to pump me through of all kinds of shit and do all these things, the symptoms ceased. And it got delayed. That was my light body, one of my light bodies beginning to crystallize and come in the line. But I didn't understand what was happening. I thought something was medically wrong with me. So here I am in the same freaking position last week. My body's blowing up. I'm expanding. Half my body's numb. And I let it be for, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. And the funny thing was, I wasn't afraid. I had no fear. I wasn't worried about dying. I wasn't worried about what was happening. But this little voice came in and it said, "Are you sure, Johanna? Are you sure? Because you've been having a lot of health problems." And I am. I manifested all of my health problems over the years. Right? And now I'm coming into my body awakening and I have to take action. It's time to finally allow the body to be the reflection of the inner, right? But because I was doing it all the other ways, I manifested a whole lot of disease in my body, which now I have to heal the old-fashioned way, right? Because once it becomes into physical form, it slows down. When it's still energetic, you can shift it. And as we continue to move forward, we manifest so freaking quickly now. So here I am laying, I'm swollen, blowing up. My throat's starting to expand and I'm feeling like it's closing, but it's opening. I reach out to Ashley and I said, "Hey, do me a favor, tap into my body." Ashley and I are what are called twin rays. So we run parallel realities. She's usually about a year behind me. But our gifts are very similar. So I said, tap into my body. I told her what was going on. And she's like, you know, we were talking about the hospital and all these things. And I said, she was talking about, what are you in fear of? I said, I'm actually not in any kind of fear. That's the weird thing. I'm very detached. I'm very detached. And that's what was concerning me. I was so detached, I was concerned. I was like, this is new. I don't think I'm going to die. I don't think something's going wrong with me. I knew that my higher self was coming in, and you expand, right? All this new information was coming in, And soon it's going to contract. It will actually contract around the lunar eclipse. It's going to contract and install into my bones. And so we went back and forth for a couple of hours, and we were just laughing because I was so freaking detached. I was so fearless. I was so anchored in this was energy. I was so detached. I got a little bit concerned. I was like, maybe I should have someone else just tap in here. It was so crazy because normally when my health things happen, I start freaking out. Oh my God, I am swelling. This is happening. My hair's falling out. My skin is dry. My head hurts. This is hurting. My back hurts. I know what every part of my being that makes a pain, I know what it means for me. But when everything starts going off at once, I would freak out and I would go down the rabbit hole, or I would think it was because of my husband or my son and I was taking on their energy because I was still running the lack, limitation, separation. I wasn't in the right energy. And literally last year was my opportunity to shift that. And then I got to experience what fearless feels like. And I'll tell you, it was amazing. It was amazing. So if you want to be a conscious creator in 2020, if you want to create your reality, you need to be present. You need to be in your awareness. You need to understand where another person is coming from without judgment. You have to accept where other people are in your home, in your job, in your life. You need to accept where they are and not take their word vomit, their toxicity that is spewing from them as something about you, that it means something. You have to accept yourself and trust yourself. You have to learn to trust what your body is telling you, what your emotions are telling you. You have to learn to read you. This isn't about reading the Akashic records or the guides. I take people in there because there is wisdom, but it's coming from a place of hindsight. You understand? It's a place to obtain wisdom, not to place blame. The root really doesn't even matter, to be honest. It's about what you do in the now. And you have to have courage. You have to have courage to take the action when you don't know where the hell you're going. Once you define yourself and you believe in yourself, then you must act on it. You have to take that action and you have to know that your ego is going to throw a fit. And if you have the tools to hack the ego, it's going to help. It's going to make it less painful. It's going to make it less obstacles because your ego is going to come back into alignment. Remember, it doesn't like the unknown. It doesn't like the void. It needs to see before it believes. But it's only because it doesn't understand its place. You're not utilizing the ego correctly for what it was designed to be used for. You're letting it run wild. You're saying it's like the 2-year-old running through the grocery store and you're like, I know who runs that household. That's what your ego is. That's what your ego does. It's so crazy, right? Who's running the show? What program are you running? Can you find it? Can you see the program that's running? And can you accept that you're running that program? Can you accept it with love and say, you know what? It's all good, sister. I got you. I know that's where you were. I'm going to give you a little bit of love right now. That is what we need more of. No more fear. No more scarcity. No more worrying about what other people think. The 3D is no longer. We are now in a 4th, going into 5th dimension reality collectively. For those of you who like the 3D, it's going away. You're going to have to learn how to live in a higher dimensional reality where things move faster. Fifth dimension, it's a vibration, right? 3D, slow. Slower processors. Takes longer for things to come. 4D, we start really tapping into the desires. Things start to speed up a little bit. We're able to see, oh, if I do this ritual and I focus all this intention, right, and all this awareness on this thing that I want, and I believe it, it will come, and it does. Oh, cool. I manifested. 5D is we're always manifesting. I'm either creating my reality, I'm playing the game, I am the player. I am in that avatar game. I am playing it. I know what I'm doing. Or if I don't, I'm trusting that it will show up when I need it. Or you're being played. And that's when you feel out of control. You feel like everything in your reality is happening and you have no control and you have no choices and you have no opportunities, and you're back in that rut of lack, limitation, and separation. You're not safe, you're not trusting, you're not deserving, you're not worthy. The frequencies of money. I am safe, I trust, I am deserving, I am worthy. Those are the 4 frequencies you need to hold money. Those are it. Erica says, you just helped me with a dormant trigger inside my body. Sharing your story about your body. I had a similar experience in 2006, and I can feel it inside of me as you talked about it. Oh, see? This is what I wanted for you guys. I wanted you to start this year prepared and armed. I wanted you to understand. And I also want you to be a part of the matrix of conscious creation. For those who feel aligned, for those who are freaking ready to show up and take these tools and put them into action while I hold space for you, while you're in a community with other people who hold space for you, while you are integrating these parts and pieces of yourself, and I'm watching you transform and shift timelines right before me. For those who want to freaking own their power, own that they are the creator. You guys, in one day, I made a ridiculous amount of money since I went broke. I don't even remember what I did that day. But I opened all the doors and all the windows. And I said, F it. I know who I am. This story is not me. I know who I am, and I have nothing right now. I have less than nothing. I owe. And I still know who I am. And I leaned back in my office chair and I cranked the tunes and I had a great old night. The next day I asked for help from my friend because I was finally in a place where I could ask for help. And I allowed her to reach out her hand and confirm for me with some light and a little more. She held space for me as I shared everything that I went through that she had no idea I was going through. And as I was sharing with her, I was having light bulb moments, right? Because holding space isn't about fixing. It's about allowing somebody to hear themselves in the energy of love. And then everything shifted super fast, like ridiculously fast, like head spinning fast. And I said, that's it. The soul flow experience is now the matrix of conscious creation because we are integrating the old programming and we are installing the conscious creator programming. The one that says there are infinite possibilities and opportunities, even when you don't know what they are. The one who knows that they are the creator. The one that knows they don't have to fix another. The one who knows their boundaries, their values. You don't have to know what you're going to do in this life. You don't have to know what your future is, what you're going to do next, but you have to start with building the structure of who you want to be. And the opportunities are endless. So if you feel called to be a part of the matrix of conscious creation. There is no landing page unless you reach out to me. I'm not posting a landing page. I'm not going to do that. I'm done with that. I want action takers. I want you to reach out to me, and I will give you a link, and we will have a conversation to see if this is a right fit for you. It was spirit. So while I have an outline of the course, I allow myself to flow. I allow myself to meet you where you are. I can bring you some agenda with advantage. That's where you are. But if I get a group who is, then that's where I need to go. So I flow within the structure that I create. I hold space. There is a fast action bonus available because I am pulling away from one-on-one sessions. Those who booked my special pricing, they're going to be on my calendar, but my rates have gone back up to where my value is. And if people want a one-on-one session, then they will pay what I'm worth. Because I really want to spend more time serving the masses. I want group experiences. I want to take this on tour. I want to work with you live one-on-one. I want you to experience my energy. These new beings that I'm working with, they've shown me in the future I will be doing live events, and I will be able to tap into the joy, a frequency. You guys think you know what joy is? You have no idea until you've felt it this way. They have shown me and have allowed me to experience joy in their form, and I just cried. I cry now just thinking about it because it was so powerful. They've showed me that as I awaken my physical body, and that part of the awakening, I will do live events and I will be able to touch somebody and they will get to experience that joy because I did the work. And I want you guys to be armed. I don't want you to struggle. I don't want you to feel lack and blocked. I don't. This year is going to be a hard road for a lot of people. I want you to be prepared. Because once you do this, you really step into that teacher role. However you choose to do it. You be the change. In order for you to fully be that change, you got to fully embrace every single part of you. Every demon, every trauma, every wound, every regret. You got to face it. It's not as bad as you think either. I always say this, we are not afraid of the dark. We are afraid of what is in the dark. And I got you. I'm going to hold space for you. It's going to be okay. So we're not going to have time to do an energy transmission. I knew it wasn't going to happen. I had way too much to share with you guys. Just remember this, we are all pure potential. I think about someone like me. I'm ruled by water. Sun, moon, rising, and my Venus are all water signs. Think about water for a second. It is all things. It is ice. It is water. It is steam. It is all the elements. And that is a good representation of our lower consciousness below our heart. Solar plexus, sacral, root, right? Ice, water, steam. Ego, self, spirit. You can change forms so easily. You guys are the magic, I promise you. And I just had to share this with you. I had to just pour from my heart and share with you all the things that I went through and be vulnerable, because here's the truth. If you are someone who is an influencer or a leader and you're not being authentic, you're not telling the truth, you're living in this, you're wearing the mask. No, we're not going to say no. I was going to share something else with you, but if you're wearing the mask, you're repressing your truth. You're showing up and being who you think people need to see, when they really need to see your heart. They need to see your truth. It doesn't matter. Oprah Winfrey still goes through shit. Doesn't matter who you are or where you are on your path. You're still going to experience things. It's a matter of how you respond in those moments that makes the difference. So any last minute questions? Let me see. One powerful, informative workshop. I definitely have lots of work to do on me. So grateful for being a part of this workshop and receiving this. You are so welcome. You guys are so welcome. And it's going to stay in here. So go back, listen to it again, take notes. Listen, absorb the frequencies that are being brought through. Absorb them. And allow it to help you empower yourself. We're so good at empowering others, but we don't empower ourselves enough. Take the action. Do the work. You can take small steps. You don't have to break the Band-Aid wide open. Okay? So again, if you feel called to this, PM me. I'll be sharing about it over the next few weeks. We plan to start the last week of January because I want to, this is level 2, because obviously it's about the emotional body, emotional awakening, which is where a lot of you are. And come April, after March, we're going to have a huge batch of people waking up. And that's when I'm going to open level 1. So I'm here for you. If you want to learn more about it, let me know and I'll send it to you. In the meantime, you guys ingest this. Allow it to integrate. Allow it to sink in. And use this group, you guys, to share. Share your insights. Share your thoughts. Share your emotions. Share what you're going through. Ask for help. Say, hey, I'm struggling right now. Let other people hold space for you. Let other people give you a hand. This space is a space for grace. It's a space for your soul to evolve. This is a space to really be open and create those connections with other people. Okay? And I hope you will utilize it in that way. I hope you will allow me to keep this space nice and clean and loving for you guys, to share your hearts, to share your inspirations, your downloads, your epiphanies, your aha moments, whatever. This is a space for you. All right? I love you guys. Thanks for going with me on this journey tonight. I hope, even if you don't join the program, that something I said awakened something in you. I hope. That's my hope. And my intention was to awaken something in you for you to take back your power and step into your creator. So you guys all have a wonderful evening, and I will be back probably next week. Bye now.